Hey, my name is Tucker Krause and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to finally be looking at some stocks outside of the United States and Canada, starting with Bannerman Resources. Though I believe they changed the name to Bannerman Energy, though that's not important. Today we're going to be looking at Bannerman. So, of course, they're going to be on the ASX, not the TSX or New York Stock Exchange like the companies I previously looked at. So, before we get into the stock, though, make sure to smash that like button. And I've also recently made a Twitter account, so follow me there. The @ is on screen now, and there'll be a link down below in the description. So follow me there just for my thoughts on market news, as well as just posting up my videos there, and that kind of thing. So, that sounds interesting to you. Again, be sure to follow over there. Now, let's get right into the video. Alright, so here we have Bannerman Energy, ticker symbol BNM on the Australian Stock Exchange, and in the United States on over-the-counter, it is BNNLF. They're currently trading at 22 cents per share with a market cap of $272 million with a really good price per pound, even with this spot run-up of only $1.31. Though to be fair, used stocks have pulled back decently now that Evergrande news we've been hearing about for a couple months is finally coming to a front with that interest payment due today, yesterday, I don't know. I'm filming this on Wednesday night. I'm not sure what's going on with the exact timing there with time changes, but that's not important. And of course, the Fed was also dovish and didn't start the taper, which did help prices come back even further, but they're still a little bit off those highs we had a few weeks back, but still substantially off those lows we had a few months back. Right, because as we can see here on the stock charts, we can see in the 6-month chart, of course, it climbed significantly, but has fallen back down a little bit, although in all time, not much of a difference. Alright, so here, these slides are going to be a mix of their most recent presentation and their pre-feasibility study presentation they did back in August. So this first part just go over their capital structure. Now, of course, the share price has changed a little bit since then, but when we look at shares outstanding, 1.2 billion, that is horrendous. That is honestly almost unforgivable how bad that is. Like, a company I think is pretty bad when you're approaching 5 to 600 million. This is double that. But I guess, at the least, they have no debt, and there is 10% insider ownership, which is quite high, but 1.2 billion shares outstanding, that is horrendous. So just going over here, their project, globally large-scale resource endowment, low technical risk, excellent supporting infrastructure right there in Namibia, and we can see that Deep Yellow, Paladin, CGN forces a whole bunch of other deposits and projects going around, not to mention a port and airport right here, so they can export quite easily. Of course, cuts to Namibia, establish uranium operating jurisdiction, and strong in-country presence and engagement. Power is to be provided by the national government, same thing with water, and because they're in Namibia, who is, of course, very supportive of uranium and might be the best uranium mining jurisdiction in the entire world, you know, that's a good thing that we're going to be getting some reliable power and water here. This is just their timeline, so they are planning to get their definitive feasibility study done in September of 2022, and they begin construction and engineering in mid-2023 and expect to be in production by late 2025. So it's good to see they're not going to be taken until like 2028 to get into production. That's a problem I've had with some companies I've looked at previously. Not a fan of when they do that because they might miss out on this bull market. And then this goes into the mine schedule after production because that's where it left off. They expect to keep it running for 15 years here with proven and probable ore reserves of 60.3 million pounds at a grade of 232 parts per million, which is, to be fair, really low. And of course, there's a lot of potential for future phase expansion because there is so much additional pounds in the ground beyond what they are going to be mining with this study they have set up here. And this just from the interview the CEO did at Crux just from early August. So of course they recently did this pre-feasibility study for a lower production model for their Etango project with lower capex, a more efficient mine, but not producing the entirety of the project, as we'll see in just a moment. Their definitive feasibility study from 2015 is the total of the Etango project with much higher cost. 274 million initial capex is the new pre-feasibility study. The old definitive feasibility study was $793 million. The CEO noted the updated plan still produces half as many pounds as the older DFS, while being 1/3 of the cost. The CEO also said the current management expects to take the mine to production rather than selling it or sitting on it during the bull market and expecting their stock to rise, but alongside that, the CEO did seem very likable in general. Just to take a glance at their Etango project, we can see there is 207.8 million pounds of the ground if you're using measured plus indicated indicated plus inferred. For proven plus probable, it's only 60.3 million pounds, but I always use M plus I, so that's what I have listed here. But as noted before, the mine production plan will only be producing 50.9 million pounds of that, so the DCF will leave significant upside here with Bannerman. There is also a higher 37.5% tax rate, with a 3.25% royalty, and they of course have a very low grade here with only 0.022% parts per 100 or 220 parts per million. But even with that higher, or very low grade, they still managed to keep their OPEX fairly reasonable at 37.30. That's definitely on the higher side, with some companies like Fission being at 7 and lots of other companies being in the low 30s, but that's not horrendous. CapEx, we can see initial CapEx, 274 million, and they don't actually have that much sustaining and closing CapEx because it only goes up to 317 million for total CapEx. As we saw earlier, it's going to be under construction for 2 years and is expected to produce for 15 years. So overall, this looks pretty good. Absolutely massive deposit for such a small company, even if the grade is quite low. Alright, so I have a couple discounted free cash flow fair values set up here for Bannerman at current spot price, at a standard prediction, at a bullish prediction, and what they're currently trading at uranium spot price wise. Now, look, this doesn't look good here. They have negative value, so they aren't even profitable when you're looking at anything below $60 uranium, which is not good, of course. But again, I'm using 50% capex and opex inflation with a 10% discount rate, so they're conservative numbers. And so that 50% inflation on an expensive project like this is already going to be hurting them a lot more, not to mention they still have 154.9 million pounds in the ground, so their value is a lot higher if you're more liberal with the numbers, of course. But I like to be more conservative with them, that's why you see what you have here. So with that, we see they're currently trading at $90.30 uranium, but of course, again, even with all those conservative numbers, they've also skyrocketed recently, so that certainly doesn't help. But all in all, it's definitely not my favorite of the companies I've looked at. You can go see a video I just published a couple days ago that I went over all the companies comparing their fair value so far. Oh, something just fell. That's not important. And it's almost at 1,000 views, so go watch it so we can hit 1,000 views on one of my videos. That'd be really, really cool if you did that. Though that's not to disparage the company. I would say for sure the management and the CEO I definitely really, really like. Also, make sure to go follow me on Twitter. That's up on screen once again. That's all I'm going to ask you. This is the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching, and I will see you next time.